Not too long ago, I posted on my Instagram and Twitter that I believe that the Super Mario franchise has a very strong potential in the animation department. A lot of you seem to generally agree, or at least like the post, so it kind of inspired me to expand more upon what I thought a Super Mario television series could possibly be like. Now, as you can probably guess, I have no experience at all with making a TV show or anything of the sort. I'm just a huge fan of the Super Mario series, so I really want to take the time to break down not only why I think a Super Mario cartoon would succeed, but also maybe even pitch a couple of pretty good ideas, or at least I think they're pretty good. But before I begin, as always, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for more videos from me in the future. Anyway, allow me to first explain my post. Now, when I had initially posted this on Twitter and Instagram, two platforms you should definitely follow me on if you don't already, I was referring to the animation and art style in the videos displayed. The animations I showed in the post are all commercials for previous Mario games that were exclusive to Japan, so as far as I know, other than the Super Mario Super Show, here in the US we haven't gotten much of 2D Mario animation glory. But of course, there are a plethora of people out there who still seem to love the Super Mario Super Show, but I personally would argue that it really hasn't aged all that well. And no, that's not because of the animation quality, or even just because of the fact that it's old. Just as a reference here, there are many great TV shows or even anime that were made even before the Super Show or around that time that I still find to be timeless. Personally, I don't believe the Super Show reflects the characters the way they were initially meant to be portrayed, or at least it no longer does. But of course, those are just my thoughts. If you happen to like this show, awesome. It's really cool to see a difference of opinion. So if you have any thoughts on the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, let me know in the comment section down below. Anyway, allow me to kind of explain what I mean by the potential of a current Mario TV show. Now, I think it's important to look at the 2D animated commercials that I referenced earlier. I say that because in less than 1 minute, we see the main cast of characters showing so much emotion and personality. One of, if not the most important thing any television series, book, movie, or any story in general needs is good characters. The Super Mario franchise has already amassed millions upon millions of fans over its 36-year tenure. Of course, it can be said that many people gravitate to Mario games because of the gameplay alone, because oftentimes the story is said to be quote-unquote bare bones. In other words, they say Mario has no story. Well, that in turn actually kind of helps my point for multiple reasons. Number one being that this critique actually exists. Essentially what I'm trying to say is, people complain that Mario doesn't have thicker plots in the mainline games. The fact that Mario games are often critiqued on this one point alone definitely shows me that there is a desire out there to see the Mario world in its fullness. People have grown so attached to these characters that they want to see how they would react in certain circumstances that the games don't quite provide. However, I would argue that a TV series actually could. And this kind of segues me to my next point. Number 2, I'm sure it's commonly known that Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Mario, tends to want him and his team to focus primarily on gameplay when it comes to making a game. And that makes sense. And seeing as though this method has yet to fail him, I guess you really just don't fix what isn't broken. However, I am a firm believer that if Shigeru Miyamoto were tasked with creating a story around Mario and many of the other characters, I would argue that this would be a simple task for him. Now, the reason I say this is because I believe oftentimes people seem to confuse won't do with can't do. Now, this is important to note because if he wanted to, Shigeru Miyamoto could create more compelling stories for Mario, but he won't. And this all kind of goes back to Miyamoto's desire for creating the best game that he possibly can. He's not focused on creating the best story he can think of, but game. Now, the reason I argue that Miyamoto is very much so capable of creating amazing stories is because of his illustrious history of creating characters, worlds, and stories surrounding the different things he's created. I've heard many arguments in the past claiming that Mario is incapable of having interesting stories, which I personally still believe is far from the truth. Games like Super Mario RPG, Super Mario Sunshine, literally any of the Paper Marios, as well as the entirety of the Mario & Luigi series. Now of course, you may not like some of these games' stories, characters, or even the games themselves, but nevertheless, it still proves that the Mario series is more than just rescuing Peach from Bowser, even if it may be the main theme. These games in themselves prove that Mario is just more than meets the eye. This franchise, in the words of Shrek, is like an onion, it's got layers. And personally, I believe that many people are so stuck on the surface of the Super Mario franchise that they believe the entire series is just built up on this very bland brick, when I don't actually think that's the case. I also would like to mention that Mario has other media outlets made by Nintendo themselves, showing that Mario can indeed have a non-linear story. One of my personal favorites is the Super Mario Adventures comics. This series not only showcases how charming the characters can be, but also gives you more insight on deeper Mario lore. Now, I'm not totally sure if this series is actually canon, and I couldn't find anything online to support one way or the other, but it does have the official Nintendo seal, proving that once again, obviously Nintendo not only knows about its existence, but also approves of it. Now if you ask me, this comic alone can serve as the basic framework for some type of cartoon. Now I've also heard that this comic is going to be used as the framework for the Super Mario movie coming out in 2022, but I don't know how true that is. Let me know in the comment section down below if you have any details. But let me be the first one to tell you that if it is true, then we're going to be in for a beautiful ride for this movie. But I digress. This comic isn't perfect by any means, but I would argue that it not only aged well, but it is also the best portrayal we have of the Super Mario characters to date. We rarely, if ever, hear any of these characters speak in full sentences. However, in this one series, we see them all converse with back and forth banter. And despite the fact that they all hardly, if ever, talk, it feels so in character for every last one of them. If you haven't read this comic yet, I highly suggest you do, especially if you want to see the fantastic character portrayal and a great story from the Mario series. But anyway, I now want to move on to talk a bit about what this cartoon would actually look like. And honestly, after watching and witnessing Mario in dozens of different art styles, I can't honestly say one is better than the other. It would be really cool to see a Mario cartoon illustrated in the same art style as the Mario and Luigi game boxes are. I've even heard some people claim that Mario would even have a pretty great looking anime in a similar style, and yeah, I could see this working too. And I mean, just looking at this Mario Kart 64 commercial just screams anime to me. But I guess if you were to ask me what I would like to personally see from Mario cartoon in terms of art style, I would have to say I would love to see it illustrated in its traditional style. This art style has been with the Mario franchise for so long that I almost feel like it would be a disservice to just kind of scrap it. It has evolved so much over the years and become so prominent that whenever I think of Mario art, this is what my mind goes to first. But of course, you really can't go wrong with any of these amazing choices. Like, imagine an anime dedicated to Mario Striker's Charge with these legendary design choices. Oh man, that would be so sick. One last thing I want to talk about here is voice acting. Now, seeing as though Mario is voiced by the legend Charles Martinet in the games, ideally you would want to keep that role to match the series' current continuity. However, that would mean that Mario and Luigi would be talking for a long amount of time, even if the episodes were 13 minutes, so perhaps a minor tweak might be necessary to make it all sound more natural and easier for the viewer to listen to. Ultimately though, you still want this to sound like Mario. I mean, don't get me wrong, there could absolutely be no tweaks needed at all. I only say this because I haven't heard Mario talk for more than maybe 5 seconds at a time, but as far as the other cast goes, nothing major needs to be done. I think Bowser sounded great in Super Mario Sunshine, and same goes for Bowser Jr., so I would aim for the same or very close. That aside though, I don't think much else needs to be done or said. So with all that being said, I hope that maybe I've enlightened you to the potential of a Super Mario cartoon. I sincerely believe that this would work. What's going on guys? Thank you all so much for sticking around to the end of the video. But now I want to hear from you. How high do you think the ceiling is for a Mario cartoon? Do you think we've already met that ceiling with the Super Mario Super Show, or do you think we can go bigger and better? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. But anyway, I want to take the time here to shout out some of my amazing channel members. Thank you all so much for your endless support and also your donations monthly to help me continue to make the best content that I can possibly make. Honestly and truly, you guys are the best motivators, and honestly, I couldn't ask for anyone else. Thank you all so much for helping me become a better version of myself than I was yesterday. If you're interested in becoming a member of my channel, there will be more information in the link in the description down below. But if you're interested in supporting me through other means, leaving a like, comment, and subscribing definitely goes a long way. Also, it wouldn't hurt to share the video with a friend or someone who really likes Mario. But anyway, with all that being said, thank you all again so much for watching. This is Sonicsta signing out. Have a super blessed day, y'all.
Why are you playing that trash?